Good morning, everyone. We're given just a moment as folks trickle in and get connected to the audio, but I want to go ahead and welcome you all to today's webinar. My name is Lizzie Brister. I'm the Assistant Director for New Student and Family Programs, and we're very happy today to share with you, of course, some resources from our office, but then we also have some wonderful guests with us today. We have Emily Good to speak with us about academic advising and Kristen Williams to talk about career services and career exploration for your student. And so today's webinar, we will get kicked off with a little intro from New Student Family Programs and then pass it along to our wonderful co-host today. So this is our office. These are some of our journey leaders, a couple of whom are on the call today to help with some of our question and answer. And then of course, Chip, our mascot. But I do want everyone, if you don't have our contact information, go ahead and do a screenshot or take a photo of this page, jot it down. We are available throughout the week, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Mountain Time, to answer any calls or texts, any emails, or of course you can always check our website. We have a very robust system. We'll show you some of those pages in just a moment here that may be helpful. But a couple things for today with any questions that you might have. If you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, there are a couple options. You've got a Q&A option down there and a chat feature. I'm going to ask that everyone use the Q&A feature to ask any questions you might have during the presentation. The cool thing about that feature is that we're able to respond directly to your question. So it's much more like a Facebook post or something where I can reply directly to you with your question, as opposed to the chat feature. If other folks reply in the meantime, our response can get disconnected from your question and it's much more difficult to try and answer. So do use that Q&A feature at the bottom if you have a question as we go. We are going to take some time at the end to be able to verbally answer some of your questions, but we do have several of our journey leader mentors and our program coordinators on the call to help us keep track of those questions you might have during the presentation. We're also going to be recording this session and posting it online. It does take us a day or two to process that video and get it up and going, but this will be available if you need to step away or you want to come back to any of the information. So first up, I am Lizzie there. And the Assistant Director for New Student Family Programs. And I want to introduce Bree, who will also be hosting this session.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Lizzie. We are very excited to have you all joining us for the webinar today. And as Lizzie said, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A along the way. And we are recording, so this can be viewed back again at any time. A couple of resources we wanted to introduce you to that we provide in New Student and Family Programs are all of the opportunities that we have for new buff families. So welcome, you're already at one of them, our webinar, but I'm actually going to click this link and take you to our website. So now you should be able to see our website. This is the New Student and Family Programs website. And when you click on the Families tab, this cute little Chip family picture appears. And then when you scroll down, if you're a new buff family, go ahead and click this New Buff Families tile. And it takes you to all of the opportunities we're providing for you as a new buff family. So you're in this webinar right now supporting your student with advising and career exploration. We are also offering coffee hours every other Friday for a more informal way to connect with New Student and Family Programs. And then I also wanted to make sure you were aware of the Buff Family Resource Hub, as well as our Buff Family newsletters, specifically the Boulder Bound family newsletter for any new families. So quickly, I'll show you our Buff Family Resource Hub. And I would recommend bookmarking this page so that you can revisit it often. And you can see each tile covers a different topic. And so we have finances, which is a topic you might want to explore more. And each section, you can click the plus sign and see more information. So if you're wondering how to authorize view to pay the bill, you can click on authorized payers and see that there. So highly recommend the Buff Family Resource Hub. You can always go home to the Buff Family Resource Hub. And then I'd also like to show you all the newsletters. So we have the Buff Family newsletter that you can sign up for, as well as the Boulder Bound Family newsletter. So you click on the Buff Family newsletter here. You can make sure that you sign up to get all of our emails and newsletters, but if you've missed any, you can actually see all of the archives here and what day they were sent. So these are all of our spring and summer 2020 newsletters that you can click here. So feel free to explore those. And then, like I said, for new Buff families, we do have the Boulder Bound, which are also archived on the website here. Boulder Bound, this was the first email that went out explaining some student next steps. So that's just a quick insight into some of the resources that New Student and Family Programs provides. And now we'd love to see who is joining us today. So I'm going to launch a poll because we want to know who's joining us in the Zoom room. So welcome, we are very excited you all are here. And I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll to see who is in the audience. So are you an in-state family, out-of-state family, or an international family? Is this your first student in college? Or have you been there, done that? You've already had some of your students go off to school. Is this your first student at CU Boulder? So is this your very first buff, second buff? How many buffs have you had before? And then what year is your student? Are you a first year student, a transfer student, or a returning student? And then our last question, have you attended any of the New Student and Family Programs webinars or coffee hours before? So we're gonna give all of our participants just a minute here to go ahead and answer that poll. Awesome, so it's looking like we have a couple of returners who have been to a webinar or coffee hour before. Welcome back. We have 99% first year students and a few transfer students as well. And then for a lot of you, this is your very first buff. So welcome to CU Boulder. And we also have 63% of you that this is your first student in college. And then we have 67% of you that are out-of-state students and 31% in-state students. And 4 of you are joining us internationally, international students. Welcome. We are very happy to have you all here. We are going to go ahead and close the poll. So if you did want to let us know where you are joining us from, you'll have just a few more seconds, and then we are going to end that polling. Awesome. We love hearing where all of our families are joining us from. So the next resource I just wanted to share briefly before we kick it off to Emily is our roadmap to 2020 and COVID-19 impacts. So to address the buffalo in the room a little bit, I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of the roadmap to fall 2020. And so the roadmap is always updated on the website www.colorado.edu/coronavirus. So definitely bookmark this. And then if you see the roadmap, this is where the chancellor is updating all of the announcements and creating plans for what the fall 2020 semester is going to look like. So if you haven't been to colorado.edu/roadmap, I would definitely take some time to look over everything. There's a lot of resources in here. A couple that I want to direct your attention to are the health and safety measures that campus will be taking, the implementation plan, which includes a timeline of what things will be announced during which months throughout the summer, And then also, what will fall look like for our undergraduate students, graduate students, and faculty and staff. So if you click Learn More, you can see what fall might look like for our undergraduate students and how to prepare for campus, community, and living. Additionally, the Housing Frequently Asked Questions Guide is being updated with the most up-to-date information very frequently. So I would also recommend, if you are a first-year family who is considering housing options, to make sure you visit this Housing Frequently Asked Questions Guide. So this is where you can see more about what they're announcing for the plan with the cohorts, how the cohorts are working, and more. So definitely check out this website as well. This is on the Housing and Dining website, and we will, again, be recording this, so you can always refer back if you missed it now. And again, give us a call, email families@colorado.edu, and we're happy to talk through with you about the roadmap to 2020.
Thanks so much, Bree. Well, we already covered our website quite a bit. I do want to keep us on track so that we can get to the meat of what we're going to talk about, but did really quickly just want to share that on our website, that new student and family programs, we do have a step-by-step guide on how to support your student through their transition. So it has some of the same items that your student has in their Buck portal of completing the online experience, which is our online orientation module, setting up an advising appointment with their advisor, which you'll learn more about today, and other things that they'll need to do as they prepare for the fall. So do check that out. One cool thing about CU Boulder, if you have questions about anything, we try to name all our websites with the most practical language that we can. So if you just pull up Google and enter CU Boulder housing FAQ, that'll be the first thing that pops up for you. So we do try to keep our websites as streamlined and easy to find as possible. But I'm going to turn it back over to Bree really quickly, just to share one more slide, and then we will get you on to the academic advising portion.
Yes, and then for sure check out these important next steps for first-year transfer or international students. This is on our website, and so I also recommend families bookmarking this as well, so you can see each step is clearly outlined in this on this website for you to follow along. And always encourage them to check their student CU email daily. And then last but not least, we just like to share our philosophy with families and new student and family programs. We like to say you are along on this journey with your student, but we think of you as along for the ride in the passenger seat. So really imagine your student is behind the wheel and you are there to support and guide them in a positive way, encouraging them to try new things, learn new things, and try new experiences. But you are really there in the passenger seat to ride along. So really empower your student to own this journey, and then the rest will unfold from there. So without further ado, I'm going to let Emily take over with the presentation. She's going to start sharing her screen, and I will introduce Emily. Welcome. All right, Emily, we can see you, but we can't hear you, or we can see the screen.
Thank you, Bree. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right. Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Like Bree said, my name is Emily Good, and I'm an academic advisor for the program in exploratory studies. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about academic advising at CU Boulder. So first off, what is an academic advisor? An academic advisor is someone who works with students in creating and achieving educational, career, and life goals. So we help students to explore their options and really personalize their academic experience here at CU Boulder. We also help students understand their curricular requirements. So basically, what classes should they take, which is an essential thing to know for reaching graduation. All incoming first-year students are assigned an academic advisor that your student can contact with questions, and in most cases, they can also schedule a virtual meeting with their advisor. So academic advising does look slightly different depending on your student's specific college or program, but in general, here are some things that your students can really expect from their academic advisor. So they should expect to be meeting at least once per semester. During that meeting, we'll check in with students to see how things are going, how they're adjusting, what they think of their classes, and then oftentimes we'll also start to talk about what classes to take for that next semester. Your students can also expect that from their advisor, they'll receive guidance on their major requirements, along with different opportunities. So for example, depending on your student's major or program, there might be research opportunities they can get involved in, or there might be an honors society or other kind of co-curricular activities that are related to their major area of interest. So they can expect to learn things like that from their advisor. They can expect to receive guidance on the intra-university transfer process if it's applicable. For example, in the area where I work, the program in exploratory studies, some of our students aren't sure what they want to study, or they might know what they want to study, but they have some additional classes to take before they can be officially eligible to declare that major. So that is basically the IUT process. So we can guide them through that. And they can expect that from their advisors, they'll receive assistance in understanding academic support, resources, and just being able to really understand what kind of things are out there to assist them on their academic journey. In addition to that, I would say you can also expect that your student's first advising appointment is going to be held via Zoom. So since most of us are working remotely right now, Zoom is kind of a free online chat, like video chat platform that we've been using to do those appointments. So pretty safe expectation right now to expect that the first advising appointment will be held via Zoom. And you can also expect that advisors will reach out via mass messaging at various points in the semester, but it's still really important to encourage your students to be proactive when it comes to asking their advisors questions, scheduling appointments, and just reaching out when they realize they need help. And if you or your student have a question where you're not even really sure where to start to look for the answer, advisors can be a great first point of contact. They might not have the answer to the question, but they can get you connected with someone who does. All right, so how does a student actually make an appointment with their advisor? So one thing to note is that not all colleges use Buff Portal Advising to schedule their advising appointments. Most colleges and programs on campus do, so that's why I'm going to cover this process. But I'll, at the end of my Buff Portal Advising demonstration, I'll speak a little more to students whose advisors might not use the Buff Portal. So for most students, they'll be able to go to this website, the colorado.edu/buffportaladvising site. Feel free to screenshot this, or you can take a photo with your phone if your phone has that capability for future reference. But basically, when they log into this website, they're going to be able to see their student success team on that left-hand side of the page. So in their student success team, they're going to want to look for the photo of the person labeled as the advisor for their major. So for example, here we have our student Albert Einstein. Albert is a physics major, and so if he wanted to schedule an appointment with his advisor, he would click on Courtney's photograph. Once he does that, it's going to take him to Courtney's calendar, and it's going to show all of her appointment availability. So that way, Albert from there can just go ahead and book an appointment time that works well for him. You'll also notice that under the advisor's photograph, there is their email address. So if for some reason your student is having trouble scheduling with their advisor, maybe they click on the calendar and it looks blank, or they're just having other issues, they can always email their advisor directly for assistance. You'll notice in the lower left-hand corner, there's also a video tutorial link. So feel free to utilize that resource if you'd like kind of a slower step-by-step walkthrough of how your student can book these appointments. Coming back to the students whose advisors might not use Buff Portal, just know that they'll still receive all the information they need about meeting with their advisor. They'll receive that information via their email. So just encourage your student to make sure that they're consistently checking their CU Boulder email. All right, so now your student has an appointment with their advisor coming up, but how should they go about actually preparing for that appointment? So I have a couple different tips for preparing. One thing I would say is make sure you keep time zone translations in mind. So since most of us are meeting virtually right now via Zoom, it's important to note that when your student makes that appointment, let's say they schedule an appointment for 1 o'clock with their advisor, keep in mind here in Boulder, we are in Mountain Time. So that would be a 1 o'clock p.m. Appointment in Mountain Time. Probably the most common reason for missing advising appointments is just time zone confusion. So just make sure you take a moment to do the time zone translations. I know I've mentioned Zoom a couple of times at this point. So if Zoom is a new technology for you, just make sure that your student practices accessing Zoom ahead of their advising appointment. That way they just feel comfortable getting onto the Zoom and they can get there on time. In the email appointment confirmation that your student will receive when they book an appointment, that will have the Zoom meeting location link on there, and we'll also have directions on how to use on how to use Zoom and who you can contact if you have any trouble with that. Another great tip, I would say have your student write down their questions ahead of time. Sometimes they might come up with questions while they're watching the online experience, so that's a great opportunity to write down some of those questions. So in the chat, I noticed that there was a question about, what kind of questions should my student be asking their advisor? So examples of questions to ask could be things like, what classes should I plan to take in the fall? Will I be pre-enrolled in anything, or will I be registering for all my classes? Any questions that they have about their major or any kind of minors or certificate, those are definitely great questions to bring up. Even things that aren't necessarily related to classes. So for example, maybe your student is already thinking about how they want to be involved on campus, and they're wondering if we have an ultimate Frisbee club. You can ask your advisor things like that too, and they can send you more information on how to get involved. Another great question, maybe just asking based on, their specific college or program, are there any specific resources they should know about? For example, some colleges and programs have academic coaching that's available. So those are all examples of questions that they could ask. So making note of those questions ahead of time is a great idea, just because we do cover a lot of information in that initial advising appointment. So having those questions written down will make sure that your student doesn't forget what they want to ask. I would also encourage your student to be ready to maybe take some notes during their first advising appointment, just because, like I said, there's a lot of information that we share. Other tips for preparing, I would say it really is beneficial if your student first completes their online experience before that initial advising meeting. Same thing with taking their writing and their math placement tests, along with the advising questionnaire. Having all those things done ahead of time will allow your student and their advisor just to have kind of a more productive conversation about fall classes. And finally, if your student has taken any AP, IB exams, or maybe they're expecting some transfer credit from concurrent enrollment, for example, it can be helpful to kind of have those scores or a list of those transfer credits ready. That way, if you haven't had a chance to send those scores to CU yet, or maybe your student hasn't had a chance to kind of get all their transfer credit over to CU yet, it's helpful to have those things available for reference. So that way they can ask their advisor questions just about how any credit they receive might apply to their desired degree. And then, of course, just remind your student, going into that advising appointment, there are no silly questions. All of this is new to them, so we completely understand that there's going to be a lot of questions, and we expect it. So just some other academic advising related tips. I would say it's a great idea to encourage your students to get familiar with classes.colorado.edu. This is our class search, and it's where they can go to actually see that schedule of classes. So starting to go through there and just take a look at the options is a great idea. As they go through that class schedule, they're going to notice that different classes are kind of labeled different things, or that there are different what we call class components. So it's always a good idea to have an understanding of what those things mean. So real quick, your student might see something labeled as a lecture. In the class search, that will be designated by the LEC abbreviation. And lectures are basically larger classes in which a professor kind of stands in front of everybody and presents and teaches on material. Sometimes they'll also notice that a lecture might have a recitation listed under it as well. So a recitation, abbreviated as REC, those are basically smaller divisions of the lecture course that really allow for kind of a deeper examination of the material being covered in lecture. They're also great opportunities to ask questions, just because it can be easier sometimes to do that in a smaller environment. So if your student's ever looking at a lecture class in the class search and it has a recitation listed under it, that means that the student must select both a lecture and a recitation for that class. Some classes also have lab options. So a lab is basically a separate class from lecture during which students get hands-on experience in the subject that's being taught in lecture. So for example, you'll see that a lot of our science classes have lab options, like chemistry or biology, for example. And finally, they might also notice that there are seminar classes. So these tend to be smaller, kind of discussion-based classes. So a common example of a seminar class that your student might see is Writing 1150, which is a first-year writing class that many of your students will take. And then I would say, just really encourage your student to connect with their advisor regularly. And again, I know we've kind of talked about getting connected with resources and things like that. So if your student is, finding that they encounter academic difficulty, really encourage them to reach out to their advisor, because advisors can help get them connected with helpful campus resources like tutoring or writing labs. And they can also let them know if there might be other department resources available, like academic coaching. And now for just a quick reminder about FERPA. So FERPA stands for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This is the federal law that protects the privacy of student education records. So this means that if you try contacting an advisor to ask specific questions about your student's academic record, once FERPA kicks in, advisors can't share this information with you. So I just like to mention this because at CU Boulder, FERPA doesn't apply over the summer, but once those fall classes start, so does FERPA coverage. So sometimes parents notice kind of a difference in interactions with advisors, over the summer. Sometimes you get used to really being able to contact the advisor with questions and asking specific things about their students. And then all of a sudden fall classes start and it feels like maybe those questions aren't being answered in the same way. And it's not because we're trying to be rude as academic advisors, it's just that we have to uphold FERPA standards. So there's gonna be limits as to what kind of information we can share once FERPA goes into effect. So if you want to be able to contact your students' advisors to ask more specific questions about their academics, you'll want to ask your student to complete a FERPA consent to release that actually names you as an authorized party with whom we can discuss their academic records. And then if you also want online access to their educational records, you'll need to request guest access. So instructions on how to do all these things are available at this website I've included on the slide. So again, feel free to do a screenshot or take a photo with your phone, and this could be a resource that you and your student look at together later. So I know I've talked in kind of a general discussion about CU academic advising. So if you'd like to learn more, feel free to check out CU Boulder's academic advising website. Not only can you get access to this great academic advising timeline, but you can also really learn more about the advising structure and resources that will be available to your student based specifically on their actual major or program of study. And then just to review this advising timeline. So this is just some general suggestions, but for example, right now we're in June, so now is a great time to be encouraging your student to complete the online experience and their placement exams. Now is also a great time to really encourage them to get used to checking their CU Boulder email on a regular basis. During July, they'll actually be able to sign up for classes based on the enrollment window that they choose. And so as questions continue to come up about classes, students can continue to reach out to their advisors throughout July. In August, classes will be starting. There'll be opportunities to connect with advisors again during some of the new student welcome activities. And then finally in September and October, classes will already be started, but it will be a great time for your student to meet with their academic advisor to check in, see how things are going, and then really start to figure out what classes are going to look like for the spring. So again, you can access this advising timeline and all kinds of great advising information at this website I've included on the slide. So feel free to record that in your notes. Well, thank you for this opportunity to chat with you. I'm also going to be around during the Q&A part of the presentation. I realize there's probably more advising questions out there, so we'll definitely have time to answer some of those. But for now, I'm going to hand things over to Kristen, who's going to talk to us about career advising.
Excellent. Thank you, Emily. I hope everyone can hear me. I am Kristen Williams. I'm a career development advisor in career services. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what we do over at Career Services, how we help students, and really the philosophy behind career exploration and the importance of it for your student when they start here at CU and then when they go on into the world of work afterwards. So to get started, Career Services really is a central hub for all career initiatives on campus. Our mission is to ensure that every graduate develops career competencies, gains professional tools, and solidifies their career choices. You'll notice that some colleges at the university have other career supports embedded within their college, and we are there to support that as well as to be a support to every single student on campus, no matter what program or college that they are in. So we are the central hub for all career initiatives on campus. So one thing I just want to kind of go over is a little bit is when, our students come to CU, right? They graduate from high school, they head to CU. We assume, right, they choose a major, they graduate, and then right off, we assume that they straight head into their career destination. Some of our students come to CU with a major in mind, that they know exactly what they want to do after school. Some of our students come with really no idea of how they want to take what they study into the world of work. And some students might have some fuzzy goals of what does that look like for them, what do they know they like and don't like, but are really going to use the time at CU to explore. And so what we know about college students is that about 1 in 3 of the college students will actually change their major. And some reports actually show up to about 80% of our students will change their major at least one time. And so it's really normal actually for students to change their major, especially once they get onto campus. It can actually be a really good sign of that they're doing some self-exploration work They maybe chose a major before they came to campus, are now in it and saying, oh, there's something about this that isn't sitting right with me, or I'm not as interested in these classes that I thought I would be. And so they can work with both their academic advisor and a career services development advisor to start to plan out, well, what other majors might be interesting to them, might align with their skills, their strengths, and we can do that work. We also know that students who change their major as late as senior year are actually more likely to graduate from college than students who pick a major at the beginning of their college career and stick with it. Again, changing your major it can be a really great sign of self-exploration and really deciding to pick a major that they're really interested in. And students that are more interested in their major are more motivated and oftentimes, right, have more success in their field of study when they have that motivation and interest there. So we want to help them navigate that and maybe add a major, maybe do a double major, add a minor, or explore our certificate programs as well to complement their academic studies. And a lot of our students, right, 25% of our students actually enter into the program for exploratory studies. So they're either undecided or they're waiting to transfer into their major or college of choice. And so it's really normal actually to be undecided and to use those early semesters in college to really explore options of how do they want to navigate their academic journey and what do they want to focus in on. So, right, major is one factor, a part of a student's experience at CU that leads into what career choice that they do or that they choose. Other things, right, like interests, skills, family influences, their personality, location matters of what they choose into a career, their personal values of what they believe in, what they're passionate about, what opportunities are in front of them at the moment. What does the economy look like, right? I mean, we're definitely in those times right now where we're looking at the economy and saying, what are career options for my student when they graduate? And so rather than that straight arrow we saw before to a career destination, we really look at career as kind of a winding process to uncovering what is that career choice I'm going to make. And that's really where career services can really step in and help your student discern and have conversations around all of these things like interests and my personality, my values, to help start to discern how am I going to complement my academics with experiential education to make that career choice when I do leave CU. So just a little visual for you to see how we go from ourself into the world of work. We have to create a vision for ourselves of how to do that. And so what we really focus in on is starting on that left-hand side of this diamond and helping students expand their knowledge of themselves, right? So we can use assessments, we help them explore classes or majors on campus that they could maybe add to as a minor or certificate, getting involved. And then also simultaneously encouraging them to learn about the world of work. So utilizing Handshake, which is our online portal for our employers to hire students. So looking at opportunities early, to starting to visualize career paths and research those. Getting involved again on campus, volunteer work, even getting an on-campus job to start to understand what does an office look like, what's it like to have a supervisor, and start to learn those professional skills that they'll take with them into the workforce. And then you can start to create that vision for yourself where you integrate that knowledge of the self and world of work to then apply those interests into the world, right? Through testing out their interests or their passions or their values in volunteer work and leadership opportunities and internships. And really then start to explore when they're ready to head out into the working world, companies of interest that align with who they are and what they want to do, and networking with professionals in the field, and maybe even considering grad school too. So we really look at this process of career exploration as a necessary part in every person's journey, and that really life is like doing this diamond process over and over and over again in our lives. And we want to equip students to have that self-efficacy, to be able to do that process confidently, and to be able to explore while they're at CU, to try things on, to test things out, and come back to the drawing board if they feel like, oh yeah, that idea isn't really, I thought I was wanting to go in the health professions, but now that I've done some volunteer work and I'm not sure that that's it, but I really like the biology side of things. Maybe research is something I want to try. So we work with students to really test out these theories with them and help them make informed decisions so they're prepared when they're leaving CU. I'm going to introduce you to a student named Abby. She is a current CMC, she's in the college, the CMCI college, and she's strategic communications with a media design influence or concentration, sorry. And she is also minoring in sociology. She's gained 2 certificates, design for social innovation and care, health, and resilience. And she also works on campus as a Clifton Strengths peer coach. She river rafts guiding in the summer, which is super cool. She also works with the Women's Shelter Crisis Line. She does data administrative assistant work on campus as well. And then she also does photography and videography. So I'm just going to share a little bit of her story with you.
So over my years through college, I have done and gone into things that I never would have expected to get into. My whole life plan has changed, and that has been due to intense self-discovery and questioning that has just been a part of my college experience. I went in thinking I wanted to be in advertising, and that has completely changed. And now I think I want to do marketing for nonprofits or working in the outdoor industry doing outdoor fairs. And I think what changed for me was when I transformed that stress of not knowing what to do into energy, to jump into different things and put myself out there. And through that, I've come to know that exploration and questioning is absolutely 100% a necessary element of your journey through college. It's absolutely okay not to know what you want to do, because within that exists so much possibility for where you could be and options for paths you could forward. Right now, looking back and looking ahead, I still don't know exactly what I want to do, but I know the people I want to be around. I know the principles that I want to use as a guide to my life. I have mentors that can help me along the way. I have tools. And I now have this sense of trust in myself that I'm capable of whatever life is going to throw at me. And not that life is going to be easy, but through all this trial and error that college has brought, I think it's grown who I am as a person in regards to my character. So just know that college doesn't have to be this perfect path. The great thing about college is this sheer amount of possibilities that exist within this experience, as well as the fact that you have people and places that are here to help you along the way.
Awesome. So just a little story from Abby that shares her experience of that journey, of that exploration journey. I'm going to share now some resources with you available to you on our website. We keep everything on our website for students, and it's public information, so you can access that anytime now and in the future. We do have this great thing called the College to Career Pathway checklist I'm going to show you right now. If you come to colorado.edu/career, that's where we house all of our information that's available. Under the student tab, you then click College to Career Pathway. And this is just a guide that if you and your student want to check this out before stepping onto campus to say, okay, how can I get started? Where do I start with thinking about career, right? I'm coming to campus, but it's hard to think about career, right, when you're just now getting to college, but it's never too early to start thinking about how am I going to connect my academic experience with life after college and in the world of work. And so we really encourage it is starting early. And so here's a place that you can start to just check out our checklist here and our guide as well. So we've got that resource for you. Just want to let you know some of our career assessments I talked about earlier. We provide a lot of assessments if that's something that your student's interested in, that can look at interests, values, personality, strengths, and can align interests and aptitudes even with careers that might be a good launching pad for starting to explore different avenues for your student. Handshake, so Handshake is our online job portal where all of our employers connect with us. They post their jobs and internships, and where students can apply directly to jobs and internships from employers who say they want to hire CU Boulder students specifically. It's also available to all alumni, and it's where we post all of our campus events. We also keep a data dashboard visible to anybody on our websites for you to go see who's currently hiring right now, how many active positions do we have on Handshake, what are the remote opportunities actually that are on Handshake. In this time, we've really noticed a huge uptick in remote opportunities that have been available to students, such as in other states where students may not have been able to do an internship elsewhere, but this summer have been able to do an internship remotely because of the current situation. So we're kind of keeping tabs on that for everyone to see. We list organizations that recently posted positions here in Colorado. as well as a map of the most active jobs in Handshake by state, and looking at what are the top 10 industries with new jobs posted in Handshake, as well as the top 10 job functions. And so once you have your identity, you can actually log into Handshake, set up your account, and start exploring it. I really recommend just kind of jumping in there and starting to explore, right? Look at the job portal, look at the employer directory, look at the upcoming events that we've got going on as well. So just to recap, career services, right? We provide career-focused infrastructure to campus. So we technology, events, best practices. We're in the classroom, so we are coming into classes and educating students on the importance of career development, how to do that, how to put together resumes and cover letters and work on their interviewing skills, all of those things as well. We are the main entry point for employer partners to engage with on campus when they're doing recruiting. And we have a whole team of folks in our office who focus in on making those relationships. And we also lead an infrastructure focused on internships and educating employer students and campus partners on best practices. What can you expect when you engage with career services? So we, right, support students throughout their whole career development process, that whole diamond we went over before. We help them explore future options, strategize for post-grad plans, connect them to job and opportunities, internships, strategize on how to make their materials for those positions, and then really coach students to describe their professional skills and individual strengths, and work on their confidence building in that as well. We're in the Buff portal as well, so you can find us under the Student Success team. What's different about career advising versus academic advising is that a student will not have a set career advisor. And that's because we want a student to be able to interact with us as much or as little as they want, and also with whomever they would like. So if they have an appointment with one advisor and want to have an appointment with a different advisor, that's totally okay. And that's, we encourage that, or they can have the same relationship throughout their time at CU. But they can go to Buff Portal Advising and find us there in our calendars to schedule an appointment. Here's our website again for you to have. And just two new things I want to tell you about as well is we're launching something called the Forever Buff Alumni Network. This is a partnership with the Alumni Association and Career Services, where we are going to be connecting our students with alumni in industry who are currently working as a mentor type relationship. Great way to network when they get out of school. And so we're going to be launching that here this summer, as well as we have some cool technology rolling out that's involved in artificial intelligence. It's called VMOC, and it's helping students with resume writing, cover letters, and interviewing skills and preparation through artificial intelligence. So that's what I have for you today. I'm happy to answer questions in the Q&A, and I'm going to toss it back over to Bree and Lizzie.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I've loved seeing the Q&A, very active as we've been talking. Appreciate all of you sending us your questions. I'm trying to look really quickly to see if there's anything kind of general that we could answer to the group. I do see one about general questions more about the Buff family newsletter. So really quickly, do want to share that covers the gamut of everything you could be looking to know from the university. It's not only events and webinars for parents and the resources we offer, but it also does cover any latest news or announcements from the chancellor regarding COVID-19, regarding recent social justice issues, regarding anything that may crop up for your student and what's going on campus. And then into, we do link out to articles on how to support your student and best meet their needs, as well as trends we're seeing across the country. So we do try to keep them consistent with what students may be encountering through the semester. So as a new Buff family receiving our Boulder Bound newsletter, that will be geared more toward resources for new students or new parents of students entering the university. And then throughout the rest of the year, it'll be more about, making the most of the winter break, how to prepare for coming back to campus in the spring. Again, good times to be looking for those internships and career opportunities that Kristen talked about. Reminders for your student to catch up with their advisor once a semester, as Emily was saying. So it really does cover a lot of those topics.
Thank you, Lizzie. I saw one good question that would be great for Kristen to answer. It was about if Clifton Strengths and some of those other assessments are free cost for students. So Kristen, I figured you could answer that one.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks. I didn't catch that question in the chat, so thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, so our assessments range from some are free and some of a small fee attached, about $12. So U Science is one that we offer for free that connects interests and aptitudes into career fit. So gives you occupations that your student might be interested in based upon their aptitudes and their interests. And Strengths is also free for students to find out what their 5 strengths are. And then the other MBTI and Strong range from, I believe, $6 to about $12 per assessment. So we try to keep the cost low to make that accessible for students. But if there were to be any issue with paying for that, we can always work with the individual.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. I'm seeing a couple questions too around housing, and I know our staff and students are answering the ones that are very specific, but I did want to put in a plug that we are hosting our next webinar on July 16th. You can sign up for it on our website the same way you signed up for this one. And that one will be a partnership with Health and Wellness Services as well as our Student Conduct Office to talk about some of the new changes and new plans that will be implemented in the time of COVID-19. And then as more decisions are made about housing and move-in, we plan to host a webinar with our friends in housing and occupancy management and off-campus housing and neighborhood relations. So those dates have not been announced yet, but there will be a webinar available because we know that those housing and dining questions are very important for your first year students. So wanted to say, keep yourself posted, stay tuned, and we will make sure that we post that one-off webinar about housing on our website as well.
And great answer, Bree. I would also recommend just going to the housing FAQ website. It is very extensive and does have a lot of if this, then what? And so if you have particular questions on, we were in phase 1, 2, 3, it has information about roommate requests and the possibility of that, as well as more information on how those cohorts are going to be set up. So in the meantime, do look over that FAQs because it is pretty extensive.
Great, thank you, Lizzie. I know we had a couple of questions too, just about the difference between cohorts and housing assignments. And again, those are still being formed, and the best contact would be studenthousing@colorado.edu. And so more to come with that. Keep the questions coming. We have just a few more minutes, and then there is an exit poll. So I am going to go ahead and launch this poll. So please fill this out before you leave. And then we'll continue to answer Q&A for a little while longer.
I'm seeing a great question on suggesting first-year students explore their options during their first year, and then thinking about our cohort model, which will put students in a couple of their in-person classes so that they're living with and taking class with the same small group of people, and then what the flexibility is there. And I will just remind that for some programs, there is a very structured approach to the semester. For some of the sciences, I'm thinking for environmental design, there is kind of a structure of you need to take these intro classes in order to take the next ones you need to take in the spring. So with those in mind too, I think it's still that students have the opportunity, and I'll turn this back over if Emily or Kristen have something to answer, but just to remember that they're able to at least get a couple of electives, so classes that they need to take that are more general ed, where they can follow some interests, as well as then of course other opportunities for jobs on campus, for other certificates and so on. But I don't know if Emily or Kristen want to jump in on that one.
Yeah, Lizzie, thank you. I can jump in on that. I would echo what you said, right? Using those electives strategically to think about how can you explore some other interests or if there was other majors that you were considering but haven't declared or have just even thought about. It can be great to add for those elective courses, but also exploring, I think maybe that visual that was up on my screen, it also refers not just to classes, but also just exploring kind of who I am and who I am as an individual, what matters to me and to that student. And so thinking about how can they explore by getting involved in things on campus, meeting different and like student groups and things like that, to start to explore some interests, outside of the classroom as well.
Thanks so much. We are going to wrap up in just a couple minutes here, though we won't sign off without getting to your questions. I do want to remind everybody, anytime you do have a question for us, we immediately answer email, phone calls. So don't hesitate. This is not your only option to get a hold of us and to get your questions answered. We welcome any interaction with you. And so up on the screen, we do again have our contact information there, and we would love to hear from you as often as you need us. Please don't hesitate to do that. We're here to support you. Our office wouldn't exist if we didn't have you to work with. So we'll continue to answer a couple questions, but just wanted to get it in there before you leave. Thank you so much for attending today, and we hope to hear from you and see you at our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone. We will be posting this on our website later this afternoon, and it will be available there. So please feel free to share this if you found it useful. Let other CU Buff families know about our office and take that exit poll before you leave. Thank you so much and have a great day.